There are people constantly telling us how much better AI is getting from model to model. You have the CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodi, out there telling us that Mythos is a worldwide level threat to security and well being. And I'm sure he's really happy about that because of their IPO. But we also have AI experts telling us that AI is going to take white collar jobs in the next 18 months. And while all of that is mostly histrionic nonsense designed to, I don't know, scare the public and increase the value of the companies, there is one way that I know personally that AI is getting better, and it has to do with my kids' school calendar. Every year, I get this messy Word document from my kids' school, and it's messy because it's not standard across the way dates are laid out or times or characters. There is a bunch of random stuff in the middle of it. Long breaks are not noted the same way. There's just kind of random notes. And it used to be a pain for me to get this into my calendar. And so I thought large language models are probably good at this. So starting a couple of years ago, I would feed it into various large language models, ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, and see which one did the best. And the first year I did it, it took a lot of hand holding. I had to basically standardize the document myself and then convert it to an ICS file for me to upload and then review. Last year, it got better, and I actually decided to do a head-to-head video about this to show how much each of these large language models could handle. I used Claude, I used ChatGPT, and I used Gemini. Claude today is my main driver, but this is what I had to say about it last year. Completely fell down. It tried analyzing code and then messed it up again and then noticed discrepancies and then just fell apart. So that one, not great. Again, the data it's getting is not standardized. It's doing its large language model thing, but Claude completely fell on his face. ChatGPT, not very good. And so that's when I decided, let me see how Gemini does. Spoiler alert, Gemini did it really well. It made like a weird assumption about all day events being like from 12 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. instead of just marking it as all day. And so I did have it fix that. And I uploaded it to iCloud, which is where I keep all of my family calendars, and it worked great. This year, I was extra confident that things would go a lot better with Claude because of MCP and because it's so much smarter and because of Cowork and agentic and whatever words I need to say to get this video to do well, but also whatever words people are using in the zeitgeist as I record this in summer of 2026. So let's look at how it did. And I will say, I had a pretty detailed prompt last year where I explained everything and gave it context and said hey, things aren't standard and I'd like an ICS file and I'd like you to verify the data with me before you create the ICS file. I didn't do any of that with Claude this time. Okay, so it is a lot different this time. Previously, I had this big, long prompt, and for Claude Cowork, I said, awesome, this is a Word doc of events coming up for the upcoming school year. Can you add it to the St. Joe's school calendar in Fantastical? So, couple of things here. I was not as detailed, and I didn't ask it for an ICS. I just had it add it directly to Fantastical using MCP. I gave it a location, and you'll see that that is the place where it fell down, but I wasn't getting that ever anyway, and it's not super crucial. So let's go through this. It says here, I'll read through the calendar first. It read the doc, it sorted out about 70 events, and then it verified the dates against the actual 2026-2027 calendar because it looked recycled, which is absolutely true. This has been a problem, actually, where they just copy and paste from the previous document, and some of the dates were wrong. And I didn't catch it, and it probably led to some weird issues, and Claude Cowork knew to look for that. So, good news that the dates check out against the actual 26-27 calendar, only some weird quirks, and it kept the dates as is. It also, I had renamed the calendar, and so it's using the old name here. So, did a bunch of stuff, added a bunch of events, ran into a couple of issues, but it managed to fix them. It asked me to double check some of these things, which I did. And then it did notice that like the location query was the thing that was messing it up. And so I said at some point here, yeah, the address attached times out. So I said like, yeah, just don't include the address. We don't need the address. But it did a really good job here and I didn't need to import or export anything. So I did double check. I always double check. And so it went through all of this because it had some trouble. It then went through the whole thing and removed any events that it had duplicates of. So I reviewed it and then I asked it this. Okay, this all looks good. Can you remove any home and school meetings? Those are not relevant to me anymore. Remove any events that reference specific grades that aren't my kids' grades, and remove any sacraments because my kids go to a Catholic school and they're not receiving any sacraments this year. So those sacraments on the calendar are not relevant to me. Please confirm before you remove. Confirmed and removed. This was just so much better than any previous year. It took a while, but like it largely just worked on its own and added everything to the calendar. I am so pleased. This is how I know, like, again, remember last year, Claude completely fell on its face. This year, Claude not only properly parsed everything, but its programming told it to double check the dates. So it did really good pattern recognition here. And then it added it to Fantastical without me having to export a CSV. So I did want to do a fair comparison here and see how does Gemini measure up. So I said in Gemini, this is for my Google Workspace account. This is a Word doc of events for the upcoming school year. Can you create a calendar? I had to add an extra prompt because it doesn't have MCP or it doesn't have Fantastical's MCP. So I said, can you create a calendar for it with Google Calendar or just export it as an ICS? So it said it can't directly injects a calendar inside of my Google account, but it did generate the ICS file. So went through, created the ICS, which I then downloaded and added to Fantastical as a separate calendar. And so now I want to kind of show you how it measured up. So in purple is the Google Gemini, and in green is what Claude did. So you can see like it named things differently, but if we give it a week-long view, anything that's striped is same exact event, same time frame, same name. Fantastical does that, one of the many reasons I love it. So it did a really good job here. I removed the new family Sunday social because we're not a new family, but you can see there's a lot of stuff lining up here. Obviously, it didn't remove the home and school board meetings, so there'll be some extra stuff, but you can also see this extended back to school night by a half hour. So there is no end time for back to school night here. I actually think it goes till 8 if needed, but just a discrepancy in the assumption that the large language models made. Usually like an hour long is the fair assumption, I would say. And it looks like that's what it did for most other things. So I don't know what Gemini was doing there. Same thing with the school liturgy. It looks like it made it just a little bit longer, but so far so good. We've got a lot of things lining up properly. Now, there was one thing I noticed that Claude flagged that Gemini didn't, and it had to do with Catholic Schools Week. Yeah, so here we are. So I'll do the month view so you can see this. But for Catholic Schools Week, the Word document listed it as the 25th to the 5th. And that is a typo. It is 1 week. It starts on the last Sunday in January. And so Claude kind of figured that out. And it was like, well, it's a week and we'll go with the end date is correct. And Gemini didn't figure that out. So that's another thing where like Claude Cowork's analysis was much, much better than Gemini's. But looking through the rest of this, it all looks pretty good. The other place where we might see like weird discrepancy is in the last week of school, but that all looks pretty good. Okay, and then you can see that 8th grade assessment didn't get adjusted to be the week. Again, like that wasn't a big concern for me because I don't have any 8th graders yet. So, but everything else looks good here. So Gemini did a good job. I got to give it to Claude Cowork though, because I didn't have to download any files. I went in the calendar and I double checked and everything looked good. Claude did a very good job of analyzing that document, double checking the dates, and just adding it to the calendar I asked it to add it to, and then removed the things I asked it to remove. So how do I know AI is getting better? Because this task that I do at the same time every year, the same exact task in the same exact format, has required far, far less intervention from me. In fact, when I do this again next year, it's not even going to be interesting for me to make a video. It's progressed so well. Again, because the first year I did it 2 or 3 years ago, it took a lot of hand-holding. ChatGPT did it very well that year. Last year, ChatGPT did not do it very well. Claude completely fell down. Gemini did it the best. And this year, Gemini did a good job, but Claude, clear winner because it has that Fantastical direct connection. So how do I know AI is getting better? It's taking me way less effort to take a Word document and turn it into an actual usable calendar. Now, the reason that this is so important to me is because I do everything based on my calendar. The reason I have such a good system for getting work done and properly laying out all of my tasks and time boxing is because I reference my calendar, I see everything that's coming up, and I know when I'll have those pockets of time. Or in the case of the school calendar, I know when I'm not going to have childcare coverage, when my kids are not in school, or if there's a half day, or if there's an event that I'm going to go to at the school, I can plan accordingly. This is all part of my admin work system. And so if you are interested in this, if you are struggling to find large pockets of time to get good work done, I would strongly encourage you to head over to streamlined.fm/kit and get my completely free Solopreneur System Starter Kit. It is the 4 systems every solopreneur needs to create a better business that they can take time off from without worrying about it. But it also comes with custom prompts and swipe files, automations, and a tools index so you don't have to guess. It gives you the most basic, the simplest implementation of all of these systems, so you're not wondering where you should start. Again, that is over at streamlined.fm/kit. But that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions about how I did any of this or how else I'm using Claude Cowork, let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, I hope you find some space in your week.